Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is Hangout number 160. Okay, I've got a lot of things to talk about, but first, I want to welcome those that are here in the chat room. Thank you for being here, and if you'd like to be in the chat room, please go to the description below, click on the link for Patreon, and you can join for $5 a month. Supports an educational channel, and you can come to 8 lives. There's 2 every week. There's a hangout during the week, and I do my case analysis on the weekend. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. But please do subscribe to the channel, like my videos, check my playlist, click the bell, and all those things. So anyway, many things to talk about today. All right, Jennifer just rolled in from Oregon. Oh, Natasha, you're from Melbourne. All right, welcome. So, and I have a couple more things I want to say about Easy Street and the officer who found the knife and is now a detective and does television shows. So interesting how time moves on. So anyway, let me see what I want to start with, and just to get this out of the way, because it's the bad news of the day, and Sarah and I've already talked about this, but very upsetting to me and to her, and known this man not in physical location for years and years. I'm trying to think when I first started communicating with him. Must be back in, I'd say maybe even 20 years ago now. Yeah, maybe almost 20 years ago. And he put this on X. He tweeted. I don't know if he say tweet anymore on X, but he tweeted this, and this is what it said. It's from Peter Hyatt. He's a statement analyst, can't talk, analyst, statement analyst, who I've highly respect, one of the best I've ever run into. Actually, maybe the best I've ever run into. And he writes this: friends, I've been diagnosed with 4th-stage sarcomatoid carcinoma, a rare and aggressive cancer. I had surgery and will be undergoing treatment when my body is strong enough to endure it. I am grateful for your prayers, and I hope to resume criminal analysis. I have many emails I haven't been able to respond, but hope to. And then he said after a difficult night of pain, he received this photo reminding him of the everlasting love of God. And I don't have the picture here, but it's a picture of his granddaughter, Lucy. And there's a baby there. And he says, God bless you. And in case you wonder how serious it is, he made another comment. He said that the arrival of the baby at the condition he's in at the moment, he says he understands the irony of trains coming and going. So I looked up what he's dealing with, and it's not good. And and I consider him a young guy because he's younger than me. And it's just, I run into so few. Yeah, stop saying that, Sarah. I run into very few people in my line of work who I have, not only do I have respect for, but they're decent enough and kind enough to have respect for me. It's a field, criminal profilers, statement analysis, investigations, all of this stuff. It can be a field full of egos, full of cliques. You're in the clique or you're not in the clique. And if you're not in the clique, you can get people be very, very vicious towards you. And I've experienced a lot of that as an independent profiler. I can say pretty much over my time being an independent profiler, I have not been treated well by FBI profilers. They don't believe I have training or background or any right to really be out there. I'm not saying all of them, mind you, but I have had a lot of negative claims, comments coming from them on my books and on my appearances, and it's been unpleasant. And the same thing is true for independent criminal profilers. I have had not so pleasant responses or comments about myself from Brent Turvey, Maurice Godwin, and this is frustrating. I did have one very good relationship with a criminal profiler who many people haven't heard of. His name is John Philpin. He's one of the earliest independent criminal profiles in the U.S. We had a good relationship. We had a lot of interaction way back when. He writes a lot of books, and I really found him to be a very pleasant man, and very, very smart. And the problem in this field is that this is a field where it seems like you're not allowed to have a lot of profilers and statement analysis people. So it's like, if you're one of them, there should be no others. And it's ridiculous, because if you think about it, let's just take detectives, for example. There are thousands and thousands of detectives in the United States and everywhere in the world. Every police department has detectives, and you get to become a detective among many detectives. But profiling has been this weird thing where, first of all, the FBI thought they owned profiling, and you couldn't be a profiler unless you were one of them, and which was ridiculous, because if you can get trained for something, you should be able to become that. And they only had, I don't know what they have now, but for many years, they only had like 9 profilers in their behavioral science unit. 9. And those are people who've been agents for years, and then studied courses and stuff like that, and psychology and so forth, and eventually became profilers. And then they developed their own training program. But there's not very many profilers within the FBI. I personally don't like their methodology, and I don't think it's highly, I just don't like it. It's very inductive, and I believe in deductive. I believe you have to base everything on evidence, not on something you're making up in your head, what feeling you have, or I've been around so long, I can just look at a crime scene and say what happens. I don't like that kind of thing. I don't like statistical analysis for profiling, but I do recognize that they did a lot of great groundwork, great studies, about the criminal mind, and interviews with criminals and all that stuff. They added a lot to the field, but I do have a disagreement with the methodology. Now, not every FBI profiler uses that methodology only. They've added in deductive profiling, so not everyone, I would say. I have issues with their methodology. Robert Russell is probably my favorite FBI profiler of all time. I really respected him. But it's just, there's this weird world where people seem to, the ego thing is just out of control. And so to actually, especially as an independent, to have people treat you well is quite nice. And so when I first ran into Peter Hyatt years ago, I had done I think it was after I'd written my book on Madeleine McCann. And I can't remember how we first hooked up, but eventually he did his statement analysis on the McCanns. And I was shocked, because this was a fellow who wasn't, at the time, YouTube wasn't pretty much in existence, so it was television or you books or stuff like that you became known through, or through your seminars and such. And he had that great background of working, police work with, and did all these seminars in statement analysis. And he came out and did his McCann analysis. And I was kind of shocked, because it's not like he was trying to get clicks on YouTube. He was a person nobody knew. This is a guy who put his reputation on the line. And at that time, saying the McCanns may be involved in what happened to their daughter, and it wasn't an abduction, it's a dangerous road to walk on. Amaral certainly paid the price for opening his mouth. I didn't pay nearly that kind of price, but I did. But he had this very conservative, shall we say, background with law enforcement that he would say that. I was like, whoa, I was really surprised. That takes a lot of guts and a lot of ethics. And what he's always done, Peter Hyatt, is he's always analyzed things and said what he thought was true. For example, he said this about on the Jean Bonnet case. which is I thought was just a great little comment. He did this comment. It's quite a while. This is 2020. Oh, wait a minute. He did this in 2024. Okay. But about a 1997 CNN interview on the JonBenet Ramsey case. What did John say, John Ramsey? He said, because we've got to go on. And this, we can't go on until we know why. There is no answer as to why our daughter died. He saw that statement as a red flag, and so do I. His analysis of that was, with the supposed kidnapper / murderer free to kill again, would who did it be your question? Wouldn't you think? They know why she was killed. Because some person broke in and hated them or wanted money or whatever, or crazy. They basically knew why. Why didn't they talk about wanting to know who? Why was why more important than who? Especially since that person seemed to know so much about them. Wouldn't you think, oh my God, somebody I know killed my daughter? They never went that route, by the way. So he noted that. And again, this was an area where you'd probably be safer off staying with the Ramseys, had nothing to do with it. There were a couple other cases that I was really very happy about. Well, the one I remember the most is the Tiffany Hartley case. That was the case where Tiffany and her husband they were on this lake between Texas and Mexico. They were jet skiing, and the Mexican cartel supposedly mistook them for drug dealers and chased them and then shot her husband, and she escaped on the jet ski. And to this day, she's considered a victim. But I had problems with her statement about how she explained this happened. It didn't ring true to me. I saw deception everywhere. So I went ahead and I put out my view on the deceptiveness that I saw and how I thought that is not how things went down. And then Peter decided to do an analysis on the case. And, I'm sitting there holding my breath going, if he says she's telling the truth, I'm going to look bad. And I'm probably going to be wrong because he's that good a statement analyst, And he came back with similar conclusions. And I was like, oh, so we had a conversation about that. I was like, I was really happy to see you were thinking the same way I was, because I do respect his ability. And I am what I call this is my own terminology, red flag statement analyst. Within profiling and analyzing that, what I find is that I look for major things. But he not only sees the major things, he goes into all the details of the wording and how things are said, what tenses are used, and much more of that. So does Deception Detective. They do more of that. I don't. I do more I look for big things that stand out. So with the fact that he did more than me and analyzed even deeper and came up with a similar conclusion, I was very relieved. So I have a great deal of respect for him for being a great statement analyst, and also I just appreciate his friendship over this time, how he's always been nice to me, and he's just a great guy, all around great guy, and just his news is a bummer. That's what I can say. I'm not sure about. Yeah, I don't know if he ever did that one. I'd like to know what he thought of that. Yeah. The why. Yeah. Well, this is the point. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about a person who do such a terrible thing. I mean, generally speaking, there's only a few reasons of why, and they're all mixed together in the mind and motive of the person. But you'd want to know who to get that guy. You want to that guy killed your kid. I mean, you can ask the why later. A lot of people do. They'll go to prison and hang out, go to the serial killer that killed their daughter and say, why did you do it? And I think, don't ask them that. Do you really want the answer? Do you really want them to say, because it was really fun? What's the point? He's a psychopath. He enjoys what he does. He likes killing and he likes torturing. You really probably don't need to go hear that from him because he's either going to say that or he's going to lie. The truth would be it was fun, but anything else is a lie. So I always tell families, don't go and see the killer of your child in prison and try to get some kind of closure. You don't get closure from a psychopath. It's delusional to think that. And I know it's because you're very emotional about it and you somehow think it might make a difference. But usually after the fact, they find out it didn't make a difference. It actually just, yeah, don't go see serial killers. But anyway, yeah, it's an overused word. I prefer the word acceptance over closure any day because a lot of times you can't get closure on a whole lot of things. You can't get closure on why a loved one was murdered. You can't get closure on why, like Peter Hyatt might be saying right now, why me? Why me? Why did I get this? And I have so much more to give the world, and I love my life. I love my family. I'm not ready to go. I'm not ready to leave yet. A breakdown of a relationship. What closure do you think you're going to get? Sometimes it's just acceptance that that's the way it ended up. Life is an adventure, and some of your adventures end in a train wreck, and there's no real great answer. Sometimes it's just acceptance. It's like, I'm not so special that bad things can't happen to me and that I can't suffer like other people. And, and so I think acceptance is a lot more realistic than closure. That's just my thought. All right. Oh, is that a cricket? Well, what? You hear them too? Wait a minute. It's quiet right now, but yes, I think that was a cricket. And also, somebody should text me, which is my sister. So thanks a lot. When I have the sound off, but for some reason the text still makes sound. Go figure. Anyway, so that I just wanted to. Yeah, that's a sad way to start a show, but I just wanted to get that out. Okay. So something a little more pleasant before I go into crime. Okay, some people have asked me about the cat as usual, the feral cat. He hasn't come to eat yet. There he is sleeping in my bedroom. So now the feral cat, he still won't let me touch him. And he's still very, very skittish. But he does, he's coming in, he's eating his food, and he will eat his treat off of a spoon, a long wooden spoon. And it's taken me a long time to get him to eat the food from the spoon if my hand is on the other end of it. But he's now done that 3 times. And then afterwards, after he's eaten, sometimes now he lays down and goes to sleep. So I'd say that's progress of the old feral cat. And if you wonder what he eats, this is some of the treats he likes. This one, which is a little freeze-dried things. You soak them, and then I like to throw them in a row so he comes closer. And then this is his absolute favorite, the Delectables. It's a squeeze treat you squeeze out, and that's why I squeeze on the end of the spoon. And I thought it was kind of silly, because I never did this with my other cats. I mean, my other cats just got what they got. I wasn't that nice. It's like, you get dry food, like meow mix, and then I give you some wet food. But they didn't get these kind of treats. But he is obsessed with this treat. And when he finishes licking it off the spoon, he looks at me and goes, "Aren't you going to squeeze another one out?" So they work. And so I'm hoping that they're good bribes for him to like me a little bit more. So far, he's going to say, can't afford those treats for 4 cats. Yes, they're very expensive. And I will say this, that my wonderful patrons have helped me with the acquiring of these fancy treats. And the question, do these hangouts go to the general public? Yes, every one of in case you're here and you don't say something you don't want ever to get out. Never text anything you don't want people to see. Never write anything down you don't want people to see. Videotape, photo, or be on one of my shows. All of my shows, 100%, are public after the fact. I do the shows for patrons only, and that's because most of the time I like to have a smaller group of people who really are interested in learning, and we get to be a community. I get to know you guys, and I like that, and you all like that. So this way I can do shows, both the Hangout and the full crime analysis, the case analysis on the weekend, and have a nice group of people. And I don't like doing things just video all the time, because I feel like I'm working in a closet and it's just me and a camera. And I just don't find that. I just don't want to work that way all the time. So I'll put out videos here and there when I don't have a full show to do or have a specific quick topic I want to get out to the public. But I like having everyone in the chat room, the patrons. And so yes, every one of my shows does become public. I want people to learn. So I don't want to have hidden shows where if you pay more money, you get to see the hidden shows. I don't really like that. So I want people to learn. So no, they're all public. And once in a great while, I do a live show that is public, just because of whatever topic I'm talking about. I give them a chance to see what it's like. So yes. When Pat highlights our comments, we get to feel like a celebrity for a moment. Well, sometimes your comments are great, and when I'm very impressed by them, or they make me laugh. Yeah, I mean, I like the interaction, and I like doing that. So, did you see my comment about 2 detectives today? No, who are the 2 detectives? I did not see that. Not sure. I think it is public. I mean, I think if people can see the chat, I mean, if they want to. A lot of people don't look at the chat. I think on YouTube, I hardly ever do this. So I think on YouTube, you can click for comments, but you can also click for the chat. And so, yeah. So as I say, don't say anything here that you don't want somebody else to see. So be careful. So anyway, that's the cat. And just one more thing. This, by the way, is my daughter has put up her Halloween decorations, and this is the scary big skeleton, and the four dogs there are a representative of the 4 dogs that she has: the 2 German shepherds, the Cane Corso, I guess it's pronounced Cane Corso, and the little one, which is the what is that thing? It's the same thing you have. Dogs discussion. What's the name of your dog? It's because it's our dog too, and I can't remember the name of the dog. I blanked, and there it is from this angle. She likes to do interesting stuff, and it makes me laugh. So, woof, yeah. That's not a sky poodle. No, what is the name of the dog? Shoot. I'm just blanking. That's the mix. It's that mix of the 2 dogs, and I just can't remember now. Crap. Yeah. One other thing my daughter did once is that she got one of those massive skeletons and put lights on, and then she dressed it, and it was as tall as this guy's house, and she snuck onto his lawn and put it on his lawn without him knowing it. He arrives home, and and he's like, who put this dog? Who put this skeleton on my lawn? And who did that? And everybody pointed toward my daughter, because she does things like that. So something doodle. Yes, that's it. It's cockapoo. Is it a cockapoo? I think it's cockapoo, right? Oh, she does things to people. Yes. The other thing she did to people was everybody in this whole mother's group, she sent them these purple little recorders. Yeah, and she sent them to everybody. And all these people came online and said, "Who sent us this? We want to kill that person. Our children are running around screeching with these things." And then my daughter came back and she posted a video of herself playing the recorder in the woods, and she's like, "Ooh." And they all said, "Oh God, we knew it was you." So she likes to have fun. So yes, she is a police detective who needs a little bit of a way to relax. So no, I think it's a cockapoo. I'm pretty sure it's a cockapoo, but I'm just blanking all of a sudden. Anyway, on to stuff that's really stuff to do with crime. I want to mention this because I just did this one, and it's been real interesting to. I went back over to look at all the comments over the execution of Marcellus Williams, the guy on the left, um, by Missouri, and my view is that he's guilty as all get out, and whether you're for or against the death penalty, that's another matter, but that he was guilty was what I was. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. Because what's happening, which is fascinating to me, because I've had people comment, they go, "What about this? What about that? What about the DNA? What about this fingerprint? What about?" And they're bringing up this stuff. And when I went through and looked at all of these websites, I mean, I went through, I think probably 40 pages on Google. Every single one said the same thing. It's basically a game of telephone. They just repeat. So what's being said, and what they're saying is that he was excluded by DNA in this crime where the woman was stabbed 43 times. He was excluded by DNA, and then the police ignored this evidence. There's a footprint and there's a fingerprint, and supposedly there's this comment. Now, what they don't do is tell you any of the other information. Okay, they completely leave out all the facts that got him convicted, and you're not hearing the truth about the stuff they're telling you. So the DNA was meaningless because it was touch DNA done years later after the killer. He had already wiped off the knife or washed it off, and later on, I think it was a DA who actually touched the knife years later, and it was his DNA. I mean, it was meaningless. I think maybe another person's DNA was there too. It was touch DNA that had nothing to do with the crime. It was later on. So it's just ludicrous. And this guy's fingerprint, DNA wasn't on the knife, but neither was anybody else. Like, there wasn't another burglar with DNA on the knife. Only this burglar, the one who got convicted and executed. So, and then they brought up these other things, but they never tell you what about this footprint and fingerprint they're talking about. Because when I look through the appeals, not once does the defense bring this up. So I'm going to say whatever they're talking about is meaningless, but they're not telling you that. And if the defense had something real to prove that he didn't do it, they would have done that in the appeals. So what happens is at the last minute, they're claiming DNA excludes him. It doesn't. The DNA is not his, so it excludes him, but it doesn't exonerate him. It's not exonerated. The evidence is overwhelming that he committed the crime. So it's just frustrating to me when I see one media outlet after another, over and over, say the same thing. Whatever the Innocence Project says, which is a pack of lies, they will repeat. And somebody did send me one YouTube channel where the guy actually said similar to what I said. I'm like, oh, thank God, one more person out here. But people do not want to. They don't care about the truth. And it is an agenda that we're all supposed to feel sorry for this guy on the left who is a violent psychopathic murderer. And it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. So if you haven't seen my video yet, go watch that. And all the evidence is explained. And if you can watch my video and come back and say, oh, none of that makes me think he's guilty. He may be on the wrong channel here because the evidence is overwhelming. So just frustrating as heck to me to see that so few media channels even waste their time getting facts because they don't care. And it's disgusting. It's disgusting to me. Well, I don't know that they can't handle the truth. I think they don't care about the truth, and that's the problem. There's a whole thing, a story, and this is what really bugs me too, is that while the Innocence Project is trying to get this guilty guy saved from execution, they're saying he's innocent, which is a straight up lie. And then all these channels come out and say he's innocent. And people fawning over this guy. Oh, we love you, you poor dear. This is a wonderful man. Meanwhile, the family of the victims have to watch everybody giving love to the killer of their daughter. of their sister, of their mom, whatever. They have to watch the entire public fawning over the killer and watch all the media channels lie and lie and lie and lie and lie. I can't even imagine being in their shoes and having to see that. That has to be absolutely maddening for them to know the truth. And somebody just wrote wrote a tweet which said exactly that, and they said they had a family that was suffering from that, and they were so pissed, and they're saying, "Go watch Patron's video," because it's not right. If they want to, if people want to fight against the death penalty, I don't object. And if somebody's truly innocent, I don't object to somebody trying to get them out of prison. Truly innocent. And if the handling of the case was so bad that there's such horrific technicalities that they were like corrupt doing something like planting evidence and stuff like that, okay, I see that the guy may be guilty, but you get him out anyway. And you say this, look, he appears to be guilty, but we can't have the government doing what they did. I don't object to that. I'm not happy about it, but I can see holding the government's feet to the fire. The prosecution has to be done properly. Police work has to be done properly. Even if the guy's a scumbag and a killer, you still have to follow the law. And if you don't follow the law, then you really can't convict the guy. But to get him out on a little vague technicalities and try to claim that he's innocent, that is an entirely different thing. And for everybody just to fall in line, it's quite appalling to me. Yeah. Well, there are very few of them, Nancy. Luckily. The real innocent ones, they must be pissed off. It's like all these true killers they're getting all the attention. They're getting, But then you have like Scott Peterson now, this total nightmare. It's ridiculous. I mean, he's absolutely guilty. And now there's all these people writing, "Oh my God, poor Scott." I'm like, I want to throw up. Let's just stop doing that. Ugh. Yeah, this is true. And oops, wrong comment. It's a pity the Innocence Project isn't about innocence. It is not. It is not about innocence. It's about their agenda. Their number one agenda is getting rid of the death penalty. Second agenda is sticking it to the government, making people distrust the government in every way. And there's a lot to distrust, but hey, that's not, each individual case should be handled on its actual merits. The guy's not innocent, and there's really no great technicalities or make any sense. He needs to be where he is. And if he's going to get the death penalty because he committed a violent, horrific crime, well, then according to the law, he deserves to. It's not, according to the law, wrong to then give him the death penalty and see it through. So, but if you think no matter how horrifying the person is, no matter what horrible things they've done, you still think the society should not have death penalty, well, then fight for that. There's a lot of reasons that people are against the death penalty, which haven't anything to do with being nice to the guy. It can be about what it makes us for actually enacting the death penalty, how much it costs for all the appeal processes, and all. There's a lot of reasons that people are against the death penalty outside of feeling sorry for the guy or what is it? Better nine guilty men go free. Wait a minute. I can't remember that one. Better that 10 guilty guys go free than one innocent person goes to prison, something like that. And to me, that's a statement I absolutely have problems with, because those guys that go free are killing people. So, I don't want an innocent guy to go to prison, but I also don't want a dozen guilty guys getting back out, rapists and murderers, who then enact the death penalty on all of their victims. So you're saving one guy, but you don't care that 10 guys go out there and kill a bunch of children. Somehow that doesn't make sense to me. And a lot of times the guy who is innocent, mind you, I want to point this out. It's like, oh, he didn't commit this crime. He did not kill this woman, rape and kill this woman. No, he didn't. He raped and killed 5 other women, but not that one. So he's not a nice guy. He's still a serial killer, but maybe he didn't do that one. And maybe there's another serial killer out there you want to get off the street. So I don't have a problem with getting the right guy so that the wrong guy isn't still out there. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that this innocent guy was a guy you want anywhere near your family. So not like he was just a wonderful man. And he was just, he's a school teacher, and he worked, he helped children and he helped animals, and he was the best guy in the world. And for no reason whatsoever, they arrested him one day and charged him with a murder. It's usually not that kind of person who gets charged. So a lot of times when they charge somebody with murder, like this guy, he had already had 16 convictions, which included violence and burglaries and all kinds of stuff. And those are the only ones they actually convicted him on. God knows how many other ones he had that they just didn't take to court, or that he got away with. So he's a psychopathic felon, a longtime felon. He's not a nice guy, even if he didn't commit this crime. He needs to be in prison the rest of his damn life. But people, they turn somebody into a martyr. They turn them into a little, like you might as well put a little angelic, wings on them and a halo over their head. And suddenly they've gone from being a vicious criminal to being this poor, wonderful, sweet guy. It's just disgusting. I mean, just be truthful, just be truthful. Anyway, that was that soapbox. So let me move on. I want to talk about this case, which is just, this boggles the mind. Okay, the girl in the middle, she's a high school student. Her name is Jada. She went to a high school that's probably about 15 minutes from my house, Duval High School in Maryland. And she was shot by this guy. Okay, now, let me read you this story, because it really truly is this one is mind-boggling to me. All right, I'm trying to find I had the best one I wanted to use, but for the story, let me see where I put the best one. Oh, here we go. Maybe it's this one. All right. So this is what happened. A Maryland teenager was acquitted of murder charges. Acquitted. Jury found him not guilty of murder, but he was found guilty. There's the cat. Hello, cat. Come and eat your food. Hello. There you are. You do know I'm here, right? I'm just, okay, it's ignoring me. All right. A Maryland teenager was acquitted of murder charges Friday, but found guilty of lesser counts related to an altercation. Okay, that's playing down that. The Washington Post likes to play things down a little bit. Outside Duval High School last year that left a 16-year-old shot in the face. Okay. Abdurrahman Diaby, 18, he was just 17 at the time, stood calmly as the jury announced its verdict at 3 p.m. Friday. The panel had deliberated for about 4 hours after a 4-day trial in Upper Marlboro. He still faces possible significant prison time after being convicted of assaulting the girl's younger brother, 2 handgun counts, and reckless endangerment. His sentencing will take place later this year. The verdict follows what was seen as a shocking incident with a heightened concern over teen violence in the Washington metro area. The victim, Jada Medrano Moore, had been a talented, let me show you a picture again. She was a talented basketball player at Duval with dreams of playing professionally. She and her brother had just gotten out of school and were walking with others toward the metro bus stop right outside the school grounds. An altercation broke out with another group of teenagers, ending with Jada being shot at close range in the side of the face. The bullet passed through her jaw and tongue and ripped through her carotid artery. Her brother yells out, "Jada, don't die," while he's holding her. She was taken to the hospital and pronounced dead. Prosecutor said she wasn't looking for a fight. She didn't have a gun. The only thing she was armed with was a school laptop. Now, all right. Diaby testified in his own defense. This guy. Here's his story. He admitted he was armed with a homemade ghost gun, the term for firearms assembled from parts without serial numbers, making them difficult to trace. Now, first of all, right here, this is not an accidental thing. The guy actually built the gun so he could have an illegal firearm. This guy's not a Boy Scout. His intentions weren't, well, I don't know. He just wanted to go to the range and shoot at targets. No, he was planning to use this gun in an illegal manner. So it's all this is very premeditated. Maybe not the killing of this girl, but killing in general. He stressed that his gun went off unintentionally as he and Jada were tussling. It was an accident, he told the juries. They were not tussling. He's now blaming the victim, a very psychopathic thing to do, which a 17-year-old can be. Diaby's attorney says there's no winners in this case. Yeah, he won. He shot her in cold blood, and he's gotten off. Repeating what he told jurors in closing arguments, he said they had no business possessing the handgun. This is the defense attorney, but he didn't intend to kill the girl. All right. So let's actually see what actually happened here. As the fight broke out, Jada tried to help her brother. Diaby pulled out his gun, prompting Jada to tell him, put it away, put it away. Instead, the prosecutor said he used it to pistol whip Jada in the head, placed it to the side of her face, and fired one round. That is not tussling. That is cold-blooded murder. He beat her with the gun, and then he shot her in the head. So why did this happen? Diaby said that days before, two of his friends had been jumped at the school by a different group, and they went looking for one of the assailants to beat up or kill. One of the friends saw the group Jada and her brothers were in and approached. After his friend was attacked, he ran over to help him with his gun tucked in his waistband. Diaby said he pulled his gun out. The other students backed off, but Jada approached him and insulted him and charged at him. Get out of here. He pulls a gun out. The girl's not going to run at him. He acknowledged he hit her with the gun. Bye, cat. Come back later for your treats. Okay? Come back later. Get your treats. He's out the cat door. He acknowledged he hit her with the gun. Well, yeah, because you pistol whipped her with the gun. You smashed the gun in her head, causing her to stumble back and grab her face. But she rushed him again and grabbed at him and his gun. This guy's a piece of lying crap. It was like a tug of war. We're fighting for the gun. It went off. No, he hit her and he put it to her head and shot her. So anyway, then he says he doesn't really remember what happened, couldn't actually demonstrate it. And he also said, oh, maybe I didn't put the gun together correctly, so it might have led to an accidental discharge. Yeah. Let's see. Now here is our brave boy, and she's our prosecutor person. She said this was not a close call. This was clear first-degree murder, period. But he didn't get found guilty of murder. They noted that Diaby is facing up to 55 years for the assault, handgun, and reckless endangerment counts. He will be off our streets for a decade, we believe. I don't believe that at all. I believe he will get some much more minimal amount of time, and then he will get out early, and he might be out on the street in 5 years. So it says the handgun conviction holds a minimum sentence of 5 years. But given the client has no previous record, the ultimate sentence could be at the lower end of the advisory guidelines. Here we go, where he's going to get as minimal amount as possible because it was accidental. Now, here is what the jury said about why they basically didn't give him the big charge of murder. Boys will be boys these days. It's what's happening with their youth today. Boys will be boys. Really, that's actually what I'm going to look at that where I had it printed here, just so I can see it again and make sure I got that straight. Oh, not just boys being boys. This was a case of kids being kids these days, because kids these days watch all these rap videos that have all the guns in them and the drugs in them, and and all the, that's the way they're watching these videos nonstop. So they want to have guns of their own. So they're all running around with guns, and it's just the way they're kids being kids. He didn't mean to do it. He's not that bad a kid. He's just been influenced by rap videos. It's unbelievable. There's a good point. Kids I know don't have guns. Well, I mean, this is the same problem I have with the concept of murderers being not such bad people. People who murder once, like the guy who just got executed. There is a line, and jumping over that line is huge. Carrying a pocket knife is one thing. Carrying a ghost gun is another thing. Pushing somebody in a bar when you get drunk and you push them or you punch them, that's one thing. Raping and murdering somebody in the parking lot is another thing. Do not people understand that line is something there's no reason to ever cross? I'm always amazed how people don't seem to think people can go through life without committing crime. I mean, my parents went through life without committing crime. My sisters went through life without committing crime. I went through life without committing crime. My kids went through life without committing crime. Why does it's like, oh, it's not a big deal if the person's out there dealing drugs, going into these groups going into the stores and stealing everything in the stores? No big deal. Shootings, this stuff this are all no big deal. They're just kids being kids, or young adults being young adults. I'm sorry, there's no reason for anybody to cross the line to commit that kind of crime. There's no excuse, and I can't come up with an excuse in the world for it. Now, somebody steals bread for the starving child. Okay, I can live with that one. But if you're not starving, I'm sorry, I just don't see that. You're wearing your $100 pair of shoes, but you have to go in there and steal food out of the store and stuff it in a bag and walk out with, again, not hamburger. You're going to walk out with high-end steaks and shrimp and fancy stuff, not the cheap stuff to survive. You didn't steal a whole pile of ramen. You're going crossing the line to steal stuff that's very, very expensive. There's no reason you need to steal anything from a clothes store ever, because I know, spending a lot of time when my kids were growing up, I went down to Value Village, which is like Goodwill, and we got all our clothes there. I got my clothes there. I got the kids' clothes there, because we didn't have a lot of money because we were homeschooling. And if they got tennis shoes, they were $10. So there's no reason why you have to go into a high-end store and steal a whole bunch of fancy stuff. You don't need that. You can go to the Goodwill store and you can get really cheap crap so that you can have clothing on your body. So when you tell me that, it's not that big a deal. It's, people commit, sometimes people commit crimes that are not that bad. I'm sorry. I don't know people who commit crimes, and I do think it's that bad. And I think we got to stop saying it's not a big deal. It's a huge deal. And the fact that our society accepts it as, well, I don't know, just drives me crazy. I can't tell anyone hungry what to do. Well, yeah, if they're absolutely starving hungry because there were no other options in life. But that's not who's committing crimes. This is not hunger. This is a problem in our society. People are committing crimes who don't need to. So I have issues with that. Okay, yes, the stolen pen. I did show my souvenir box when I was a child, and in it is a copper pen, if you didn't see that show. And when I was 8, I found it. I was out in the playground after school, and in the corner of the playground, far away from the school, I found this copper pen in the dirt. And I thought I picked it up, and I thought it was the prettiest thing ever. And I knew I should just go in and turn it into the lost and found. But I liked the pretty pen, so I took it home, and then I hid it in the box. And then I never took it to the lost and found. And I felt guilty about that for absolute years, because I considered myself a thief. And other people go, oh, come on, there was a piece of something you found in the dirt. Yes, but I knew that it wasn't mine. And there might be some kid out there looking for their copper pen. Maybe they went to the lost and found and they said, did you find anybody turn in a copper pen? And they were told no, and they went home heartbroken because maybe that was a special thing for them. So that was my one crime of my life. And I think that I feel bad about that still because I think it was wrong and I knew it was wrong. So he wrote a song about it. Me and my copper pen. Oh my God. But yeah, it's just, that just drives me nuts. And just to mention something else on the thing about crime, that we seem to, in our country, seem to want to ignore things, this kind of stuff that goes on, and don't understand the absolute damage it does to everybody. This is the article I ran into. How a tourist paradise became a drug trafficking magnet. This is Costa Rica. And most people think go to Costa Rica. It's a very quiet, pleasant country in Central America. You know, it doesn't have the cartel issues of Mexico or the drug history of Colombia. It's this nice, quiet country, which it was to a great extent at one time. However, that is changing now. And the cartels are using it. They're looking for other ways to get the drugs north. And so it's become a real problem. And I just want to just read you just a little bit about what happens. And this is why I talk about when we're soft on crime here and we think it's just no big deal. It really, really frustrates me. It says now there's a dangerous new threat lurking in the national parks, which are violent drug cartels. And they said what's happening is that the drug cartels are now looking for new trafficking routes to evade authorities. They have now surpassed Mexico to become the world's leading transshipment point for cocaine destined for the United States, Europe, and beyond in 2020. Mexico came back as the first last year, but now Costa Rica's rivaling them again. A new surge of violence has hit the nation. Homicides in Costa Rica soared 53% from 2020 to 2023. The rising homicide rate is a result of gangs competing over drug markets. In Costa Rica, schools are becoming crime scenes, with parents gunned down while dropping their children off. Plastic bags filled with severed limbs have been discovered in parks. A patient was recently shot dead inside a hospital by members of a rival gang. Local gangs battle for control of routes within a country, a competition in greed and ruthlessness to become the local muscle for the rival Mexican criminal groups operating here, largely the Sinaloa and Jalisco New Generation cartels. So now they're calling it a Mexicanization of violence. Now, why? So now this country is getting screwed. This country is now suffering. The children of that country are suffering. The adults are suffering. I mean, communities are being destroyed. It's going to also destroy tourism at some point, because who the hell wants to go to a country you're going to get killed? People already say that about Mexico, which is a great country, by the way. I love Mexico, and I've never encountered problems there. But I stay away from the locations of where the Sinaloa is and the other cartels. But you never know. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful countries get destroyed. And then two things happen. Well, one is that the people there can't live there anymore, so they start flooding north, which is an immigration problem, which I'm not going to get into the politics of, and please don't hear. But, when your country is being destroyed, there's an issue. But here's the problem I have. The reason that these drug cartels exist is because of Americans, a huge amount of Americans doing drugs. A huge amount of Americans want to do drugs, and they buy illegally all of the fentanyl and the cocaine and the crack and the heroin, everything that's coming over the borders. And if they weren't there to buy all the stuff, there would be no problem. These countries would live in peace because there would be no reason to bring drugs to the United States. But we have so many people committing criminal acts, which is the use of drugs, that it is destroying those countries. And it is destroying our country. If you're in the U.S., it's destroying our country. The fentanyl deaths are out of control. My own kids know like 5 of people that are acquaintances / friends have died of fentanyl overdoses. And this is in a nice area with nice people. This is not a severely poverty-struck area where people didn't, again, have a decent life. But they are unfortunately getting into drugs. And you just say no from my era where, doing drugs is a horrifying thought. And it has gotten out of control where tons of people are doing drugs. And we see it everywhere, just destroying our country and our kids. But it's also destroying Mexico, and it's destroying Costa Rica, and it's destroying all these countries who make money off of drug sales in the United States. And now we have, because of the legalization of marijuana in the United States, that now there's so many stores with it, but there's a huge black market as well. So what's happened is there are Chinese cartels actually in the West now with huge illegal weed farms. So it's like the concept of crossing this line from not committing crimes and not doing drugs is so weak at the moment that we're seeing more and more children being caught up in very bad behavior, very bad habits, and it's scary. And so I feel very strongly about that line. Don't cross that line. And you don't need to cross the line. Don't cross it. Just don't cross it. You don't need to unless there's some very, very unique and unusual circumstances. You don't need to steal and you don't need to do drugs. So that's on my second little. Yeah, actually, they're there. Believe you me. They're, well, not where you are, but they're out in certain locations. It's just they're the ones operating the weed farms, and not the legal ones. So it's and she's very beautiful too, and has a wonderful singing voice. Lex is pointing out, I have a thing about pens too. I can never find one when I need one, probably because of all the pen thieves. Well, now we don't use them. We just use our phones. So it's eliminated that. So anyway, that's my second one for the day. Sometimes I just look at this stuff. I'm like, what the heck? Let me talk about this case because I was asked about it. And it's an interesting Australian case. And it's the case of Jane Thurgood-Dove. Sarah actually asked me to do this one. And I can't do a full video on it because I really haven't. There's so little information that's useful that it's hard to do anything with the case. However, what I found interesting about it was this woman was killed, and that's her house. And this is the woman who was killed, Jane Thurgood-Dove. She was shot dead in front of her children. She had 3 children. She pulled into her driveway, and a guy got out of a car on the street, ran up and chased her around the car and shot her to death. And there was a very weird case. So let me just read you basically about the case, and then I'll tell you what I find interesting about it. So 16 years ago this week, well, this was in 2013. I wish they'd give the date. 1997. Here we go. In 1997, she stepped from the car with her kids, aged 11, 6, and 3, still strapped securely in their car seats, in their seats, to be confronted by a pot-bellied gunman who chased her around the family 4-wheel drive before shooting her in broad daylight. Jane was just 34 and appeared to be an average mom in an average street, married to an average guy. But behind every front fence, there are secrets, and Thurgood-Dove's private life and public death were to become front-page news. A murder investigation begins at the source and works its way out in ever-growing circles. That is because it's an established fact that you're most likely to be killed by someone close to you than by a stranger. And this is especially true when it's on your front lawn, in your driveway. We're not talking about she got accosted in a shopping center. This is right in front of her home. So you're going to definitely look at who wanted her dead, not some complete stranger just going to do that for no reason, unless it's some kind of gang initiation, right? A kind of drive-by fun shooting, Within hours, Jane's husband, Mark, was told he would be treated as a suspect until proven otherwise. He cooperated fully, and police moved quickly to the next ring. And her husband, yeah, he passed a polygraph. And they supposedly didn't do that well in public, his public appearances, because he was kind of just the way he looked and moved. A lot of people didn't like him. So he was very relieved when he's taken off the suspect list. Now, I think he had an alibi, but the question was, did he hire somebody? Because it clearly was not him. The pot-bellied man was not her husband. So the question is, did he hire someone? Now, I want to go here for a second and talk. There's a show called The Good Cop, and the guy in it is Ron Iddles, and this is him. Now he's a former detective. He was with the Victoria Police Homicide Squad. Now, he was actually the guy in the Easy Street murders that I just did, and they just found a suspect after almost half a century from DNA, touch DNA. Oh, no, sorry. It was not touch DNA, just the semen DNA. So they had real good DNA, and they finally found somebody. And it was a really strange case. Watch my videos on that. But this Iddles was a patrol officer at the time. I'm not sure what they're called in Australia, but in the U.S. it'd be called a patrol officer. He stopped a 17-year-old kid in a car, and in the boot of the car was a knife, and the knife had the same blood type as one of the victims. Of course, back then it was not DNA; it's just a blood type. So half the population had that blood type. Well, he said the 17-year-old kid he stopped, said he found the knife on the railroad track. And apparently, at that time, they decided it wasn't likely him because the crime did not seem something that a 17-year-old would do. And he had his alibi was he was out burglarizing places with his buddies. It's kind of weird. And there's some talk that he was actually a student at the school that one of them taught at, or the victims taught at. I can't quite get the absolute on that. But anyway, Iddles was just a patrol officer, but he turned that over to the detectives, and they apparently did not think that was not their top suspect. And so time went on, and nobody was arrested till just now. And so now that 17-year-old is 65 years old. But this is the guy who was that fellow at the time, the patrol officer, but now he became a detective. And he says something very important and he repeats it over and over and over. It's his thing for the show. He says, A, B, C of investigative work. A, assume nothing. B, believe nothing. And C, check everything. Check everything. A, B, C. Assume nothing, believe nothing, and check everything. Well, I agree with him on that. That should be true. So anyway, in this particular case, the husband was supposedly moved off the suspect list. And I have a problem with this. Because you have to believe he didn't do it. And then if you don't assume that he didn't do it because he passed a polygraph. He can pass a polygraph. Don't believe that he's innocent then, because you don't have proof that he's innocent. I don't believe anybody should be removed from a suspect list unless they absolutely have proof they could not have done it. Now, when we go back to the Easy Street murder case, the guy said he's out burglarizing places with his buds. I still don't understand how that was accepted as an alibi. So my question is this: how much did they prove that this guy couldn't have been at the two women's houses to murder them? Well, did they really prove this alibi prevented him from being there? First of all, his friends lying for him, and that is not an alibi. When you have friends, family, girlfriend, boyfriend, mother, it's like, oh, well, they'll vouch for me. Well, so what? They'll lie for you too. So you can't believe those people. So that to me is not a solid alibi. Being out of the country is a solid alibi. Being in the ICU is a solid alibi. Being in prison is a solid alibi. Being on the pulpit, giving your speech, your sermon is a solid alibi. Being seen at a bank camera 200 miles away is a solid alibi. Something like that's a solid alibi, but everything else is questionable. So I don't know how the now suspect, whose DNA was supposedly matching the DNA at the scene, walked away at 17 years old, and they weren't suspicious of a guy who was running around with a knife that had the same blood type as the kid. And he lived right nearby, mind you, so it wasn't like so I don't know how they let him off. So here we have in this case, and I watched the show. There's a show, I'll try to link that below, the name of the show. I think I saw it on, I don't know where I saw it. I think it was through Apple TV, but the whole show was on this case. But the husband gets off of the suspect list, and I do not know exactly why. Now, the next thing, examining Jane's immediate past, they found a serving policeman who was obsessed with a married woman, so much so that soon after her death, he tried to buy a cemetery plot near hers. Inside his house, he had built a memorial to her, and his mobile phone number was based on her date of birth, as was his work computer password. She had rejected him, but he remained obsessed. Okay, now I don't understand this part. I heard two different stories on this. One is that they were having an affair. I think he actually said that in the show. So if she was having an affair, the point being that maybe her husband was pissed off. Or if she was having an affair, did they actually have an affair? And apparently right before she died, he said there was a phone call from her to him. I think it was her to him. He said it only lasted a minute, but it turned out it lasted an hour. So she was talking to him for an hour, pretty close to the time, and she was within days of the murder. Well, an hour is not something. What is she talking to him about? Is she trying to break up with him? Is she trying to tell him to leave her alone? I don't know. But I don't know if she was having an affair or not. But she cleaned his house, and apparently something happened there. He became obsessed with her, whether they had an affair and she broke it off and that, he refused to accept it, or whether she never had the affair and he just was obsessed with it. Don't know. But he was obviously stalker obsessed. When you do these things, have the stuff that he did is too weird. It's just as the memorial to her in the house, there's a picture and little candles and stuff, and wanting a gravesite next to hers. Okay, that's something wrong with him. So he became a suspect. And why? Supposedly because she was not interested in continuing this, to be with him. Whether she was ever with him or not, I don't know. She refused to be with him. So the idea there was that he killed her because she said no. Okay. Sometimes that happens. And usually what happens is that they do the crime themselves. Now, he was not the pot-bellied man. And also, apparently, there was a second person in the car. When the car pulled up, the pot-bellied man jumped out, chased her around, and killed her. And the second man stayed in the car. He was the getaway driver. Now, that's interesting right there. In the beginning, when he was talking about it, I thought that the kid, the 10-year-old kid who saw his mother being shot, and he identified what the guy looked like. And I thought, well, maybe he thought there was a second guy, but there never was. Maybe it really was this policeman. But apparently there were witnesses. There were people at home who actually saw the car pull up too. And they saw two people in the car, and they could actually describe both guys. The other guy was thin, the driver was thin, and the other guy was pot-bellied. So now there's absolute proof, and that's enough witnesses all to agree on it, that there were two people involved in this crime. Now, so when we look at a stalker, now by the way, he took a polygraph and he failed it miserably. So he was like the suspect for 5 years because he was the best suspect. And when we look back at the Easy Street murders too, my best suspect supposedly didn't do it either. But yet he crawled in the woman's bedroom and left his footprint on the bed. He claimed a night later, but still, it's a great suspect. He was also a stalker. He was stalking her and climbed in her window. But supposedly it's not him. It's this 17-year-old kid. So here we have a stalker who looks like the guy who did it. So again, we talk about what he says, assume nothing. Just because he is a stalker doesn't mean he is the one who committed the crime, even though he certainly looks like the type who could commit the crime. So we believe nothing. Well, we're not sure what we know, and then check everything. So, at any rate, That's what it seems that they looked at him. Now, it says here there was one flaw: he was innocent. Well, I don't know. That's also something I haven't seen proven. I don't know that he was innocent. So again, to believe nothing and assume nothing. I don't know that he was innocent. He did not have an alibi for the time. He was obsessed with her. He could have been involved in killing her. Now, I'll tell you why I allow that as a possibility. All right. So supposedly, the confused, distressed, and guilt-ridden cop had convinced himself that Jane's husband, Mark, motivated by jealousy, had organized the murder. Okay, well, that's what he says, but I don't, okay. So as the detectives pursued the policeman, there was another theory. And while not directly, and it was not directly under the noses, it was just up the street. Okay, so what we have here is what turns out to be supposedly a case of mistaken identity. All right. So down the street, there was a woman named Carmel who looked just like this woman, and an unlikable fellow, Peter Cipriano, a career crook and opportunistic conman. They had two children, and they moved into their home just up the street from Thurgood-Dove. Doves. While the neighbors found them very private and security conscious, they didn't know why the young family had a good reason to be worried. Just a few years earlier, an old business contact had planned to abduct, torture, and then kill the husband over a $200,000 fraud scam that went wrong. And so supposedly they couldn't get to him, and then they didn't want it to look like it would be too obvious that they killed him, so they decided to kill her instead. Now, personally, I don't find that all that sensible, shall we say. So the theory is off here. So there's a guy named Peters. In 1994, he was charged with conspiracy to murder the husband. He agreed to a generous plea bargain and was released in 1997, a few months before Jane Thurgood-Dove was murdered. In jail, he made some serious criminal contacts, including amphetamine dealer with links to the Geelong, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, bikie gang. Okay, the theory goes like this. Peters knew that if the husband was murdered, because he tried to kill him before, he would be the main suspect, so he turned his attention to Carmel, the wife. Now, that to me is stupid right there. I have a problem with that, the logic of that. Okay, if I kill him, they'll know it was me, so I'll kill her, so they won't think it's me. If you have a hit on some guy's wife, it doesn't exactly make you think it wasn't the same person who wanted to kill him, because it's a revenge killing. The whole thing was a revenge killing. Whether you kill him or you kill his wife or you kill his kids, it's all revenge killing. So that logic makes no sense to me. And supposedly then he used a drug dealer to employ the bikies as a makeshift hit team with the instructions to kill the blonde mother in the four-wheel drive who lived 3 houses from the corner in Muriel Street. The trouble was both Jane Thurgood-Dove and Carmel were both blonde and lived 3 houses from different corners. So you had the street and you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Both of them had four-wheel drives and both of them had a similar look. In the case of mistaken identity, they killed the wrong woman. The theory is strengthened with the news the hitman was beaten to death shortly after the hit, allegedly as punishment for his mistake. Days after the murder, we spoke to Inside Source, who exposed Peter's original plan to kill the husband. He has little doubt that Carmel was the real target. But they have never proven it. So what do I think? So I'm trying to analyze this crime. I have a problem because some of it doesn't make sense. So they want to kill this one woman. I don't quite understand how, when you're going to hire somebody to do a hit, you don't have a house number. You don't have a house number. You don't have a map with a big X on the exact house. You don't have a picture of the house, an absolute picture of the woman. I mean, it's that's not rocket science. People say, "Oh, this is a bikie gang. They're a bunch of idiots." Yeah, they're not professional hit people. I get that. But if you want the right person killed, wouldn't you do at least basic stuff? I mean, maybe he didn't. Maybe he just said that. That's all he told them, and it was just a really bad coincidence that somebody looked just like her three down. But they're sitting there. Supposedly, they were seen. The car was seen sitting there at the streets doing surveillance of the wrong woman for a couple nights or something, or a couple days. It was there. Somebody saw the car there. So they were looking at the wrong house this entire time. I don't know. Maybe it's just a massive level of incompetence on the part of anybody trying to do a hit. It just seems a little weird to me. Because I say it's really not that hard to at least come up with a house number. Or I say on a map, you put the X on it and you say, okay, this is such and such a street. You turn here and it's the third house from that street. I mean, I don't understand how you really have to be just dreadful in setting this up. Could it have happened? Yeah. So the wrong woman got killed, and it had nothing to do with her husband. It had nothing to do with her stalker / possible affair person. And it's this weird drug. It's this weird hit thing. But some some low-life criminals. Well, they've never proven it. It's just not proven. But it's so they're satisfied that pretty much anybody who was involved in this crime is dead. So they're never going to prove it, but they're comfortable with their conclusion. I don't know. This says here Jane's parents are continuing to battle to keep the case open. And they're offering more money to try to get some more people to talk. But people have talked, but what are they saying? And does it make sense? And can you prove it? So this is a complicated case, which I can't, because when I watched the show, I was frustrated over the lack of information. And this is what bothers me about these shows. And it really bothered me in this case because he is a detective and it's his show. I mean, he's the one. Now, they may have edited out everything useful, so it may not be his fault. But he's doing the talking through the whole show. And I rather like the way it was done. But I'm like, how did you exclude certain people? How did you absolutely do that? And I would like to know that. So, but I didn't find that in the show. I found a lot of empty spots there, which weren't ever explained. So that's why I'm not doing a full analysis of it. Are they probably right? I guess. I guess, but the stalker didn't do it. I will say, generally speaking, I will say this about the stalker guy. Most of the time when the stalker guy wants to kill his obsession, he definitely does it himself. Rarely does he hire somebody else. He wants to be the one to see her die in front of him. He wants to be the one that is the last person to be with her. He doesn't, the last face she sees is his face. And sometimes he then kills himself because he wants to go off to eternity with her hand in hand. But a lot of times he'll just kill her and run away. But his thought is, I'm the last person she was ever with in her life. And if he gets caught, her picture, his picture, they get to be together in the news forever and ever and ever, like a couple. So for that reason, mostly, I don't think he's involved, because I don't think he's going to hire a hit squad to kill her. Now, hiring a hit squad to kill her husband would make more sense. You know what I mean? Get rid of the husband so he can have her. That would make sense. But for him to hire people to kill her and miss out on that last moment of joy, to be with her and to be forever connected to her in that way, that's very unusual. Most stalkers do it themselves. So I tend to go along with the mistaken identity theory, but I just don't have enough information to feel comfortable saying that's clearly what happened. So, and but it's an interesting case for that's for sure. I mean, but I liked his ABC thing. So if when you're looking at cases, assume nothing. And if you remember, assume means don't make an ass out of you and me. Assume, ask you, me, assume. And yes, it's true. Never assume anything. As far as believing things, don't believe just everything somebody tells you. Don't even believe anybody's theory, including the profiles, unless you analyze it properly. And then check everything. Check everything. Because you'll never know what you might miss if you don't check things. Now, when I say check everything and he says check everything, what we don't mean is every psychic tip. Thousands of tips come through tip lines, and you have to determine which ones are wasting your time. So and people will say like, oh, I called with this tip and they called because your tip was idiotic. They're not going to waste their time checking everything that is nonsensical. They'll check everything that's worthwhile checking. So check and verify if you can. Yeah. Mrs. Murphy, hi. Didn't think of that. The reasoning behind a psycho stalker. Yeah, it's they're very emotionally tied in their own head, mind you. Even if that person doesn't even know they exist. I can't remember the name of the actress. It was a famous case. The guy was in England, and she was a U.S. actress, and he was obsessed with her. And he showed up on her doorstep one day, and I think he knifed her to death because that way he was with her. And so, yeah, and take that idiot, the Jean Benet Ramsey character. What was his name? Somebody give me his name. The one who claimed he killed her. It's been a while since I've had to say his name. Somebody tell me, what's the name of the guy? Somebody I know. See, this is why I like the chat room too, because I blank during my shows because I have so many names in my head. He was a creepy little character. I forget, long hair. Now I might have to look it up. Gary? No, not that one. I'm sorry. No, not the later one who said he killed her. The one that handwriting is supposed to match. It's that earlier guy that was supposed to be. I'm Googling here. The original guy who said he killed Jean Benet. Jean Benet claimed. Let's see, who is it? John Mark Carr. Remember him? He was arrested in Bangkok, Thailand, following a false confession to murdering Jean Benet. He was a 41-year-old school teacher, claimed to have drugged, sexually assaulted, and accidentally killed Jean Benet. So that's who it was. Yeah, John Mark Carr. Yep. And so he wanted his picture next to her picture. And guess what? He got his dream. Now he can cut that out. He can put it in a frame. And now he's with the girl of his dreams as a couple. So, it's obviously a deranged way of thinking, but in the mind of a person who is living in a fantasy, that fantasy brings them enjoyment. I mean, there are people who fantasize having a romance with an actor or actress, and that's one of their, and they imagine themselves with that person, and they can enact that fantasy in their head, sometimes in bed, with or without another person. And some people put, the teens put pictures of that person on the wall, and some people put their picture next to that person on the wall because that they get that fantasy of being together. It's nice. So normally it's not. Normally it's a minor thing. Most people have little fantasies like that, or just enjoying that. Wouldn't it be neat if I could meet this person and they would like me and I would go off into the sunset with them, or at least one night with them, whatever. So people have fantasies, but taking fantasies to that level where you actually enact out a homicide in order to be the last person to be with them, because that is actually true. If you actually kill them, you get to be that person. You have now a relationship with them. Take John Lennon being shot. That guy who shot John Lennon now was the guy who is linked to John Lennon. He's famous and he's linked. And so to him, that's a great achievement. They're now, either a couple or buddies or famous together, So, yeah. So there's there's a lot of these stalker types that do that, which is why they're so dangerous, by the way, is that if that's what they decide is the way for them to finally either be with you or to beat you. Sometimes they want to beat that person in the sense that they want to win one over on them. So that's also another part of stalking, is that person turned me down and I want to be the one to win. Or that it may be professionally, that person has something they've achieved and I wish I'd achieved that. And now I'm going to kill them because then I've achieved getting rid of my competition. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons people stalk, but mostly it's the fantasy romance thing of some sort. So, oh, who's that? Oh, Hinckley. Yeah, Hinckley. Okay, so Hinckley was trying to impress the actress, Jodie Foster. He was trying to impress the actress. Instead of killing her, he decided if he could be the guy that did this, that somehow Jodie Foster would be amazed by him. Yeah, yeah. That's another whole version of that. Speaking of people who are obsessed, this is a weird case. This is a father obsessed with his own daughter. And I've had this one ready to talk about for weeks, and I keep not getting to it. So I'm now going to get to it. What a strange story this is. And you wonder what in their mind is so off. Okay, here we go. Okay, so she's become a police officer. Dad accused of stalking and killing his daughter. Allegedly acted like a jealous lover. His name is Hector Ramon Martinez Ayala, and his daughter was Marbella Martinez. Marbella Martinez. A Utah father accused of killing his sheriff's deputy daughter. She became a sheriff's deputy, as you see in this picture. Before fleeing the country, was allegedly becoming increasingly obsessed and controlling. He's 54 years old. She was 25. He was charged, they got him, I guess, and charged with 2 counts of obstruction of justice, stalking a cohabitant, unlawful possession of a financial transaction card, unlawful use of financial transaction card, and unlawful possession of another person's identifying documents. All right. They allegedly fled the country after the slaying, which makes sense. You would do that. All right. So what happened here? What the heck why did he do this to her? Anyway, they discovered the body of the daughter around 8 a.m. on August 1st of, what year are we in here? This was, oh, wow. Okay. Last month. So this is very recent. If discovered her body in her home that she shared with her father. There's a big, here's the big warning I'm going to be giving in a minute. She was lying on top of the bed, covered with a blanket up to her neck, and she had been strangled. And his behavior, the father's behavior, had become increasingly troublesome, and he had engaged in stalking behaviors for months. Prosecutors allege that she found, get this, so she found a bag of her underwear in his room, and that he had placed a tracking device on her vehicle to find her. Authorities allege he used the device on July 29 to track her and her romantic interest at the time. So she had a boyfriend and they were hiking, and he tracked her with that, tracked her car. After the incident, she allegedly stayed at a hotel, but returned home on July 31st. That's what you don't do. You don't return home unless you bring, first of all, she knows police officers. She's a sheriff's department, right? Bring police with you. Bring police to remove your things from that place. Now, doesn't mean that he can't stalk you and shoot you. It's true. But the last thing you want to do is go back to a place where the stalker actually lives. And she did. And so that was the last thing she did, was to go home, and she was killed by him. He texted his brother just 2 hours later after he arrived at the home. He disabled the camera, or he deleted the videos, so they couldn't see him do it. Anyway, he texted his brother 2 hours later and said, "My brother, you know how much I love you. I made a big mistake. An unforgivable sin." Yeah, the unforgivable sin he did do. "Now I'm too scared and I don't know what to do. I think I will never come back." He allegedly disposed of his daughter's cell phone before driving to Salt Lake City Airport, flew to San Francisco and then Houston, then used his brother's identification when he landed in another country, he was seen on surveillance video. And I guess they got him back. So, wait a minute, they didn't get him back, or they did? Ew, maybe he's not back. Ew. I thought for a minute they caught him, but no, I guess he's still on the run whatever country he is from. He was charged, but they have not got him yet. Okay, so he's vanished. So, whether he can be found and extradited is another issue. But a father becoming obsessed with his own daughter, that's creepy as heck. And, I just wish she was even, she had some awareness of police work and everything. She was, in the police department. She was the sheriff's department. And yet, somehow, she didn't understand that you cannot go back and go put yourself alone with a person who does these things. She needed to understand psychopathy a little bit more. And there's another story here, just came out. This was yesterday. Mom of 4 killed in front of her children. This is in my county. Okay, and here the story is very similar. She had two twins. She had a son that was 8 years old and a little daughter was 3 years old. And she was gunned down in her own home while holding a baby. The police identified the suspect as 26-year-old Quindell Mercer. Her name was Takia Monea Nails. So this guy was the father of the 2-month-old twins. He was over Thursday night to visit, but turned violent when she asked him to leave. Because, when you're dealing with a psychopath, maybe asking him to leave doesn't end well. He then opened fire. A neighbor saw him run away. Now, this is where the big problem comes. They learned that Mercer had a history of domestic violence. Last spring, Nails sought a protective order against him after he allegedly choked her. The order expired when she decided she didn't want to go forward to court. And over and over again, we see people don't go to court. They decide to not go through with getting the guy charged with whatever. And then they let the guy back into their home. Now he's the father of her 2-year-old, her twins. So I don't know whether she thought, okay, he just lost his mind at that moment, but he's okay. Well, clearly he's not okay because he's a violent person. No, choking your girlfriend is not normal. Remember that line I keep talking about? Sometimes people throw things. Let's say you get a big, huge argument and you're just furious and you pick up a plate and you throw it past the person and smashes the wall. Okay. That I can see that. Choking the person is crossing that line. That's a huge line. Your father is stalking you and you find he's got your underwear in his bedroom and he's tracking you on his car. That's way over the line. So, people just they don't believe the line. Start believing the line because people don't do that don't have major problems crossing those lines. And so these things are not okay. So when people say things like, "Oh, my boyfriend did this and my boyfriend did that," do you think it's a problem? Yeah, he crossed some line, and you seem to accept that maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's not that bad. Yeah, it is. My girlfriend cheated on me. What do you think I should do? Get rid of her. She crossed the line, unless it was some extreme reason why she cheated on you. Yeah. That's a line you're not supposed to cross. So, and then of course, usually when people cross that line of cheating, they also are liars. They lie and lie and lie and lie and lie. And so therefore, that line is it's not a blurry line. It's like a magic marker. It's a big line. So people need to know the difference between something. Oops, sorry, I just hit something here. That's an interesting story. And I'll get to that in a second. I was just checking your comments when I clicked on that. We have some bowl throwers here. That is true. It's not always 3 strikes. It's true. But, it should be 3 strikes. If somebody crosses that line and they're connected to you, you really got to question. You don't need to have 3 strikes with somebody you know. How many chances do you give somebody when they don't respect you enough not to cross the line, or they don't respect the law enough to not cross the line? So, you're a door slammer. well, that's okay. We're human. So it's not, people do human things, but to do things there's things that nobody does unless there's something really wrong with them. Choking your mate is extreme. That's extreme. Especially if you're choking them for whatever reason. There's not even a major reason. You're just angry because whatever. You have an argument and you choke the person. Yeah. So watch out for the line. It is. It's close to death, and that's the whole point. Is when that person chokes, they're not just trying to shake you. Shaking, I can see the shaking thing maybe. It's like, why are you doing that? I can get that, because you're not trying to kill them. You're just trying to wake them up, sort of, let them know you're there. However, putting a gun to somebody's head, putting a knife to their throat, putting your hands on their throat and starting to throttle them, that's across the line. That's so far across the line, it's ridiculous. That's 100% unacceptable. And then you say, well, maybe maybe they lost just the way people are these days. Kids will be kids. He just happened to shoot her. He just got himself a ghost gun, went to shoot somebody, but shot her instead. Not that big a line. Yeah, it is. It's a huge line. Just a huge line. Just outrageous. And people downplay it way too much. We're downplaying that line, and that really bothers me. This one I just showed you is just really interesting. This guy, it's an interesting story that he was kidnapped at the age of 6. I think it's the guy on the right. And let me see the picture here. He was a 6-year-old. So he's a little boy, and then the other one was his older brother. He was kidnapped. They were walking along. Some woman came up and offered him some candy. Spoke Spanish to him, and he went to get the candy, and then she kidnapped him. And what's so odd about this case is, as you can see in this thing, they found him 70 years later. He's 76 years old. Now, essentially what happened was the mother never knew what happened. She died, I think 2000, somewhere mid 2000s, and never knew what happened to her son. She always hoped he was alive, but the police never found him. And one of the family members, I think it was a niece, decided to do the DNA thing, and it linked to this guy on the East Coast. They're in California, I think it was California, and it links to a guy on the East Coast. And so they found out that was the missing 6-year-old. He had been the woman who kidnapped him, gave him to a couple who adopted him. I don't know if it was legally or not, mind you. We're talking what year was that? I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. Well, wait a minute. 70 years ago. We get it. 1951. I don't know what all the rules were in 1951. But he grew up knowing that those weren't they were not his biological parents. He actually grew up knowing that. It's fascinating because it's very unusual for a kidnapping, because people say this is Madeleine McCann, right? Because she was only 3 going on 4, that somebody would kidnap her and give her to a childless couple, and they would raise her as their own child. And one of the reasons you don't usually do that with a kid that age is that they have memory. They know, you're not my mother. You're not my father. A baby doesn't know any difference. So most of the time people steal babies, either for themselves because they want to have a kid and they steal a baby and they raise the kid as their own. Or they sell the baby or give it to whatever, and that person gets a baby that doesn't know mom and dad, so they become mom and dad. But an older kid knows, you're not my mom and you're not my dad. This kid was 6. So it's a very unusual case. Rarely do they do that. Also, it's just too risky. Now, mind you, the Madeleine McCann case, there's no reason why anybody would kidnap a girl that age from a couple, from a British couple vacationing in Portugal if they didn't want this to become international news. And then her face goes everywhere, and then you're in trouble because you can't raise the kid if the kid looks just like the one who was kidnapped. So the chances of that happening was very, very teeny. And if she had been actually abducted, it will be by a sex predator, a child sex predator, not somebody wanting to keep a baby, because she would have been too old and it would be too big in the media, which it was. But back in 1951, the media wasn't so good as far as information. So if that child was taken to the other side of the country, chances are nobody there would hear anything about this kidnapping 3,000 miles away. So that's probably why it worked. And but that he was found, he wasn't killed. He was actually truly abducted to be raised by 2 other people. And there's no information about now the people who got him and the woman who kidnapped him. I mean, we're talking 70 years. So they had to be at least 20 years old, if not 25 or 30. So I'm sure all of them are dead. And he does not have those parents anymore, nor is the person who kidnapped him probably alive. So there's no criminal case to pursue at this point. But I wonder how he felt about these people who raised him. I wonder who they were. I wonder why they ended up with him. Did they actually find somebody to kidnap because they wanted to kidnap? I mean, I just wonder what kind of people they were to accept the 6-year-old child. Unless, well, that doesn't even make sense. Sometimes a woman will say, "Can you watch my child? I can't take care of I can't take care of him right now." And people watch the child and the woman doesn't come back and they just keep the kid. That's possible. But in this case, why would somebody bother? It's not her kid. It's somebody else's kid that she's bringing. So you would think there would be a financial transaction going on there. Like somebody said, find us a kid. Find us a kid who looks like us. So I'm assuming the couple was probably Hispanic. The woman who kidnapped the kid spoke Spanish. So I'm assuming that there was a Hispanic couple who hired a woman to kidnap. Or maybe it was one of their relatives. I don't know. But I would think that the couple who took him knew that he was kidnapped, and bizarre. And I wonder how he raised up and didn't say anything to anybody and accepted these people. The story we'll never know, because apparently what happened is he's the guy on the right. The guy on the left died soon after. That's his brother. He got to meet his brother, and then the brother died. And he's gone back to the East Coast and says he wants no publicity. He does not want to talk to the media. I guess he does not want to. Maybe he does have good memories now of the people who raised him, and he doesn't want to tear them apart in the media, have them torn apart in the media, or he'd had a terrible time. Who knows? And he doesn't want to discuss it because it's personal to him. So we'll never know more about this case, but I did find it very interesting. It's one of the rare cases of a kid actually being abducted at that age and given to somebody to raise. That's kind of fascinating. That's so rare, extremely rare. Oh, that's an interesting. Thomas, you're doing this? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, the chessboard killer killed at least 48 people in Moscow. If any of you know something about his crime, please. Help Thomas out there. Help Thomas out. That's really cool. Oh, choking should be a felony, as long as it's provable. If you got like finger marks, like obvious finger marks where you choked, yeah, it should be a felony. It's attempted murder, or at least it's a major assault. But a lot of times, again, people don't want to press charges. And now the problem with pressing charges, of course, is the fear that the person, when they get out, because they're not going to get much of a sentence, will come back out and do you in. You're afraid of that person. So you're like, okay, I just won't press charges. Maybe they'll just go away. Which I can't say necessarily is a bad idea. There's no real good way to do it, except that you never want to have contact with them again. And it's difficult if you have, the kids by the court. The court will say the guy has to see the kids. So now you're in a situation where, what do you do when the court requires you? Now, the guy gets to pick up the kids. Now, you can always try to meet at a public place and stuff like that. It's a real mess. Just don't get involved with somebody you can't trust. Don't get involved with a person. My rule is always the same. When you meet somebody, do not marry them prior to 2 years. And after you've known them for 2 years, and after you marry, do not have kids for 2 more years. Make sure they're a keeper. Make sure they're safe. Make sure they're not going to harm you or the future children. Make sure you don't have to get in a horrible divorce situation right away where you have, little children and you've got a guy you don't trust or a woman you don't trust. So that's my rule, 2 + 2. So let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, I'm running out of time. Okay, let's see. What, the other one, somebody asked me to do, so I'm trying to find. This is another one that I was asked to look at, and these are the ones that sometimes I just can't do much with. And I'll tell you the reason I can't do much with this one. This is an old case. This is an Australian case. I got a lot of Australian cases today, for whatever reasons. This is Janine Vaughn. So this case happened in 2001. All right. So Janine was 31 years old. She left a local nightclub and was last seen getting into a red car on Keppel Street in Bathurst at 3:50 a.m. on Friday, December 2001. They investigated her disappearance and they never found her body. They did in 2009 at an inquest, and they found she had died, but her cause of death remained undetermined and her body hasn't been located. I find that kind of interesting because I don't know how they found she died unless they knew she died. I mean, I don't understand that. I mean, she's missing for a long time, and maybe it's a 7-year. I don't know if you have a 7-year thing. They declare somebody dead. I mean, probably she's dead. I'm not saying she's not, but I just wonder where they came up with that. So anyway, this is the story. So she's in a club, and 10 minutes before she's seen getting into this red car, another woman was approached about 750 meters away by a man in what we believe is the same vehicle. So this is where things get really complicated. And that's why it's hard to even figure out exactly what was going on. Okay, this is not, where's the other one? Come on, give me the other one. I thought that was the good one, but it's not a good one. The problem came down to, did she know the person who had the car, or did she not know the person who had the car? Now, this is not Uber time. Ubers weren't in existence yet. So she couldn't have just gotten in a car accidentally because she thought it was an Uber. People do this too many times. Women have gotten in trouble and raped because of this. I thought it was my Uber. Well, Uber gives you the information on your phone. It gives you the type of car, and it gives you the license plate number and the name of the driver. So the car pulls up. You look at the car. It has to match. The license has to match or whatever. Everything has to match. And then when the guy rolls down the window, what he will do is then yell out, "Hi, are you Pat?" And then everything matches and he knows my name. So you just don't say, "Oh, look, it's a car that's like the car," and you just jump into it. So women are doing that. But in this case, this could not be the case because there are no Ubers at that time. And it wasn't a taxi. So we have a red car. Was it somebody she knew, or wasn't it somebody she knew? And if it seems like it's more likely to be somebody she knew if she was the only one that this guy tried to get into the car. All right. Because then, somebody could have pulled up and said, "Hey," and she's like, "I'll give you a ride." Okay. And she jumps in and disappears. But this guy stopped somebody else too and tried another woman, right? 10 minutes before, and then her. So it almost sounds like it's a stranger. And apparently something about her, like she had a bag and her money was in it. It was like stuffed behind she was at the club, I guess you guys, people hide their purses, and that way when you go dancing and your purse is hidden, and you supposedly was still there. It was a really weird case. And so she just left the place without it. I mean, she was really trash drunk, but why did she get in the car? And I can't find Well, I lost the one that was the better story on it, which really annoys me. I'm looking one more time to see if I see it, because they went into a little bit more detail. But why did she get in the car? And they've never figured that out, and they don't know where her body is. So that's one of those cases. It's very hard to analyze because there's nothing much known at all, and so that's why I can't do a whole show on it, because I just don't know. She was very drunk. Well, okay, another reason not to drink. She was very drunk. Yeah, people get very, very drunk, can do stupid things. So is it possible that she's so drunk and but this guy just keeps asking her, you need a ride or something? Maybe she's just so drunk she got in the car. But when I first saw it, I thought, when they talked about a second woman, I thought, oh, it's prostitution. Two women are out there. First one didn't get in the car. She did because she was working, but that is not what she was doing. So she was with friends at a club, and she was not prostituting. So she literally probably was too drunk and made some really stupid choice to get in the car with somebody she didn't know, or maybe it's somebody she did know, but the creepy dude tried to get a different woman, and then he goes, oh, wait a minute, I know her. I mean, I guess you look at the ABC again. Don't assume anything. Don't assume she didn't know him. Don't assume she didn't know him. And check everything. But I think they just came up with nothing. So that's a case that's probably going to remain unsolved, because what do you got? And was reported she was upset. Okay. I haven't seen every single article on this. But if she was upset, what's the issue? Bye, Sarah. She's got to run. Yeah, I'm annoyed that I had two different ones up there. I think the good one flew away. But it's. Oh, wait a minute. I think maybe I found it. Oh, there it is. Oh, I found the other one. Well, it's a Reddit, so it's like, okay, let me just add to it. All right. She was walking about 40 minutes ahead of her friends. 40 meters, not 40 minutes. 40 meters ahead of her friend. She was last seen getting into a red four-door sedan that was likely a late 90s model and is reported to have been similar to a Mitsubishi Magna or a Toyota Camry. All right. A similar car is associated with a still unidentified man who was reportedly stalking women in the area in the time leading up. But I only heard about one other one they pulled up toward. So I don't know. Police assume, see the problem here, the driver is most likely the same man who picked up Vaughn that night. Assume. All right. It says here, on the night in question, she lost a handbag at the Metro Tavern. The bag was found a few hours later by a cleaner working at the hotel. The bag is known to have some of Vaughn's bills in it. It also had her mobile phone, her money, and her house keys, which meant when she disappeared, she had no money and no way of calling anyone to report what had happened to her. But she was, it says here, let me go back here a second. She was walking 40 meters ahead of a group of friends. If she's with a group of friends, why isn't she staying with a group of friends? Is she that angry with a group of friends for some reason that she's just going to walk off and get in a stranger's car? And she does, with nothing, no money, no phone, no house keys. I don't know where she lived, whether she could knock on the door and whoever was there would let her in. But why didn't one of her friends go with her, drop her off? I mean, I don't understand what's happening there. The cleaner who found the bag, remember seeing it. It was like somebody had deliberately hidden it. I found it jammed in a corner. Someone had put packets of chips in front of it. So that's interesting. So did she put it in the corner so that she could, do people do this, hide something in a spot where you can get up and dance and move around and you don't have to carry the purse with you? Because a lot of women get stuck a lot of times with that stupid purse. It's a real pain in the butt. I've seen women out on the dance floor, with their purses hanging on their arms. But sometimes they'll leave them with friends at a table, or they will hide them like behind a seat. Like if you got cushions, one of those cushion things like that, you can stuff it down. I never did that, but some people do. And then maybe she stuffed it down, then she put the chips there so nobody. Hold on a second. Hello? Come in.
Oh, it didn't look like you were sitting in front of your TV.
No, I'm doing my show. What's up?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. What's up?
Mandalay spring rolls on your counter.
Oh, are you kidding me? Oh, thank you.
They're right there.
Oh,
Sorry.
that's okay. Thank you. Ooh, I got Burmese spring rolls. My daughter brought me. Oh, isn't that nice? Mm. So that's pretty cool. Nice daughter. Um, yeah, those are some. That's one of our favorite restaurants, and it's not near my house, so she must have been out with friends and picked it up. So lucky me. So anyway, she could have hidden it herself and put the thing there to keep people from seeing it, or somebody could have hidden it, grabbed hers and hidden it, and then hid it from her, which could make her angry if she's like, "Where's my purse?" and couldn't find it. I don't know, but that doesn't seem like they know about that. Now, it says here, another piece that's of notable interest was a diary that she was writing in. She wrote of concerns that she had about a local policeman, Mr. Hosmans, specifically that he'd been stalking her. This diary was given to the police within a fortnight of her disappearance. Concerns about Sergeant Hosmans had also been reported to police not long after her disappearance. They cleared him of any wrongdoing. Well, if she was worried about being stalked by this guy, why would she get in his car? I mean, that would make a little sense. However, they checked him out really thoroughly, and they've come up with nothing on him. This continues to be a persistent part of the case. There was a letter came in alleging that he was involved, but who knows who that letter came from. They cleared him of the involvement in 2002, but he's now a person of interest still. 2009 is okay. Another piece of evidence of interest was a bloodied knife, which was found on the grounds of a local nursing home facility. This knife was discovered on December 10th, just 3 days after Vaughn's disappearance. A forensic officer working for the Bathurst police did a visual inspection of the knife and recommended it be examined by the laboratories, but it never happened. The knife was never again inspected, and in fact was destroyed in 2002. This massive mishandling of evidence during the initial investigation became one of the reasons the Vaughn family have since lost trust in the local police. That's crazy. So there was a person there working. They thought maybe he did it. He became a person of interest. His name was Dennis Briggs. He says he didn't kill her. He also claims that despite the pair frequenting Metro Tavern at the same time, he had never seen her there. Oh, so he was there at the night that she was there, and a knife showed up at the place he worked. But he says it wasn't me. And he described as being very friendly and bubbly. It is alleged that he admitted having murdered her during the 2009 inquest. The story Briggs is said to have told involved him slitting her throat and burying her under a pile of rocks. He claims to have come up with the story because he felt he was under a lot of pressure. Wait. He was under pressure from the police, so he decided to give them the murder story. Okay. Let's see. Oh, he also did drive a Hyundai Excel pink red. They examined it. They didn't find anything in it. Let's see. He was on bipolar medication. Claimed she buried her at White Rock, just south of Bathurst. Let's see. And the third person of interest is a guy named Andrew Jones, who's a local pharmacist. He was advised by his lawyer not to speak. Okay, he had a red car too. He got rid of it. Why did they think he was? I don't know why he thinks they think he had anything to do with it. He made purchases at the store she worked at. The 3 purchases were all made within a few months of each other, and but they don't know if she was working when the purchases were made. He also matches a description of a man driving a red car seen by one of Vaughn's friends that night. It's reported a man in a red car had stalked Vaughn. Okay. Okay, so what would I come up with basically on this? Who do I think is most likely? I think it's most likely the guy who was at the care home. Why do I say that? If I had to pick one of the 3, she's not going to get in a car of a stalker. I know she's drunk, but still, she's scared of somebody. She's not going to get in there. And so a stranger stalker or any kind of stalker, I find that hard to believe. However, the guy from the care home, if he's at the place they both at the same place at the same time and chatted and whatever, and then he sees her walking and pulls up and says, "You need a ride?" And she knew him from inside. I can see somebody taking a ride with somebody else who was in the bar. I can, and if they've seen each other a few different times, and she knows he's irregular at the bar or something, I can see that she's got no way to get home. She would get in his car. It's also possible he could have taken her purse and hidden it, and then when she was coming out, because he thought, I'll get a chance to give her a ride then. Maybe. Why the friends weren't with her that really bothers me. It's like, hey, don't let your friend just wander off by herself with no way to get home. What the heck? What kind of friends are you anyway? But if I were going to pick somebody, I'd pick him. He's the most likely person that she would get in a car with. The other two, I just don't see any reason why she would get in their vehicle. So that would be my theory on that one. So I'm glad I found that story because the other one really sucked, didn't have any information. Sometimes Reddit is useful, Sometimes it is. So anyway, I'm at 9 o'clock, so I think I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. And anything I didn't get to tonight, I'll do next week. And because I know there were a couple more questions I was going to answer tonight. So next week is 3 o'clock. So actually a couple of them were British cases. So, hey, it'll work out. The people from the UK will be awake as opposed to now when they should be sleeping. So anyway, thank you all for being here. And so I will see some of you on Sunday. Yeah, it'll be Sunday when I will do whatever case I decide to do, which I haven't figured out yet. As I usually get about here and I still, this day of the week, and I still haven't figured out what I want to do. Oh, thank you very much, Taylor. Appreciate that. Oh, that's Pam who said that. Pam loves me. I don't know about. Bye, Taylor. Most welcome. Yeah, if you're talking to me, Thomas, about him, do I have any insights? Let me say this last thing because I don't really care about the way serial killers think. I really just don't. I mean, to me, it's not interesting. People always think that because I'm a criminal profiler, I'm just like, oh my God, let me tell you how this serial killer thought. And that one, I don't care. They're all the same. They're all psychopaths with some kind of personal fantasy of power and control. They want to play God, and they do in some kind of perverted way that they like. That's it. I don't care what the version is. It's kind of like saying, how interesting is it if you go fishing that this person uses whatever they use to go fishing. And one person likes to fish out of a boat and the other likes to fish off the shore. Another one likes to do salmon fishing. I mean, maybe people are all fisher people, are really interested in all those details. But, but they're actually fishing is way more interesting than serial killers. Serial killers are very mundane people. They really are. And so to me, the only thing I'm interested in is not how they think, I could care less, but how you can catch them. How is the investigation of serial killers handled? So I think I've done a couple shows on serial killers. Let me tell you what they were, just so I can inform you of that. If you go to my playlist, okay, hold on, I gotta find my channel. Okay, my playlist. I have a playlist on profiling serial killers. Okay, in this list, I've actually done 5 of them. All right. I've done Jeffrey Dahmer, Charles Sobrage, the Boston Strangler, the Zodiac Killer, and the Freeway Phantom. I've done 5 of them, and here they are. You can see them there. And so go to my playlist, and you'll see them. But I don't spend my time talking about the mind of these people. I'm talking about how the investigations worked and what should have been done, what wasn't done, and what things could have been done better, because to me, all that matters is catching them. So that's why unless I'm talking about the entire case of how to catch them, I'm not doing a show on how creepy they are. There's many channels that will tell you how creepy they all are. And getting inside the mind of serial killers is impossible. Anybody who tells you they can do that is nonsense. You know, you're not a serial killer. You know, people like, for example, I'm trying to think of something I'm not interested in at all. Uh, think of something that you just don't have the slightest interest in. Romance writing. Okay. People say, why don't you write romance books? Now, I do have my one book, Only the Truth, which is, there is a little love story with that psychological mystery, but that's not a romance book. Romance books to me are boring. I have no interest in them. I think they're stupid. But people get into them and they're like, oh my God, this writer does this. And I just love the way she put the characters together. And I'm like, I mean, I can't get, let's say I want to get inside the mind of a romance writer. I don't know. I can't do it. I'm not a romance writer. I have no interest in it. Nothing in my life has ever led me to understanding how to write that stuff because it's not me. So if you're not interested in killing people, you can't get inside of the mind of a serial killer. You can't. What made them that way? I don't know. Nobody knows. They don't know. And people can make up all the crap they want. They had a bad childhood. They were this, that. We don't know. But I can tell you the one thing I do know. They like power and control and to play God. It's their moment in the sun. When they get to do that, it makes them feel amazing. And they get to be somebody that beat out everybody else in the chess game. So in other words, a lot of times, the one thing is true is that a lot of times serial killers growing up feel that they lose. For whatever reason, grow up with a family or community where when they try to do stuff, they don't succeed. Either the mother ignored them, so they have attachment disorder. They don't get a response, a love response back. These kind of things happen in their childhood. And with their personality mixing in. But again, how it all comes together, I can't say. But at some point, they do not like the game that is played by the people around them. And they keep losing at it. So they decide they're going to change the game board and change the rules, only they're not going to tell anybody else what the rules are. That way they always win. So that's how they do it. And eventually they decide, when I can go kill somebody, everybody thinks I'm Clark Kent, but I'm really Superman. So they view me this way. But then in the night, I turn into Superman and I go out there and I could grab that girl, the girls that think they're better than me, whatever they decide to come up with as an excuse to kill, better than me. And I get to do things to them and torture them and watch their fear and rape them and all this stuff. And then I get to kill them and watch the life go out of them. Isn't that cool? And then I run away, hide the body, whatever I do. And I go back to regular life. And I'm like, ha, 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 look what I got away with. And you all don't know it. You found her body and now you're all freaked out. And I'm just sitting back here going, you have no idea it's me, but it was me. That's fun. That's exciting. But that's the same for every serial killer. Just different versions of it. Some people like to eat chicken. Some people like to eat pork. You know, some people like to fish. Some people like to play baseball. Some people like to knit. They're hobbies. So serial killing is like a hobby. They have different hobbies. I mean, they're sort of the same. The results are sort of the same, but their way of doing it is different because that's what they enjoy. So, but there's no sense going down to the level of each one of them and trying to figure out why this particular serial killer acted this particular way and what was wrong with him and what did he think and why did he. For me, it's pointless. So I look at the basics of what, that is a serial killer, and then how he chose his victims. And that's not because they looked like his mother or because whatever. How he chose his victims because they were available, because they represented maybe they're small enough so they're easy to overcome. Whatever how they decided to play their little game, I can get into that. And then how do the detectives figure out who's playing that game? They need to know who the chess master is. And if they can figure that out, and sometimes you've got a bunch of guys playing games, which is why you have more than one serial killer in an area and you can't figure out which one did it. And sometimes their games look very similar. I mean, in other words, everybody got choked. Sometimes they look very different. Some got killed and got tied up in a house and tortured and killed. Another one just gets hit over the head on the way home from a bus stop. Probably 2 different serial killers. So that's the whole thing that the police have to figure out. That's the part that interests me. So, Thomas says, I think you're 100% right. Unless you are one, you have no idea what goes on in their head. Bad stuff happens to a lot of people, but not everybody becomes a killer. And we honestly do not really understand. We don't, and we never will. Sometimes serial killers really don't understand other serial killers either. Like, why'd you do that for? That's stupid. Yeah, you're going to have to. Anyway, yes, time to go. But Thomas asked me that question, so I wanted to answer him. So I will be doing a whole thing. And when I do the school part of this, I will be discussing the whole issue about the serial killer and what he's really like, and what is the basic thing that we need. Sometimes when you're working as a detective or as a profiler, you need to know that which is important and not a whole bunch of fluffy stuff that is meaningless and is not going to be useful in the long run. So, yeah. But anyway, most welcome. Good luck with that. Good luck with your thing. He was trying to be Chikatilo. My funny story about Chikatilo is this, that that's the when I went to Ohio, I was doing my book tour and I was on a local morning show. I told the guy who was interviewing me, don't ask me a question. I got to remember somebody's name. And the first question out of his mouth was, Pat, so what's the most prolific serial killer of all time? And I'm like, and I'm thinking of Chikatilo, but I couldn't remember the guy's name. And so I had to come up with a political statement. Well, we'll never know who the most prolific one was, because probably the most prolific one got away with it. And we don't even know how many bodies he has or who he is. And then afterwards, I'm like, I told you not to ask me those questions because I have no memory. And this was 20 years ago, so it's not Alzheimer's. So anyway, I am glad you got to see me for at least a second, but you have to rewatch now. I will have a good night. I'm going to go eat the Burmese spring rolls my daughter bought me. I'm just so thrilled. They're so good. It's the best Burmese restaurant in town. Fantastic. Oh, cool. That will be neat. Do that. Do post the link. That would be great. All right. Very cool. All right. Oh, you're going with the South American child killer? Maybe. Or maybe it's the guy they never caught. Anyway, so thank you all for being here, and I'll see some of you on Sunday for whatever case I am going to do. And again, if you're new and still hanging around, please subscribe to the channel or join Patreon and be in the chat room with all these great people. Thank you for being here, everybody. Bye-bye.